Hey, how's it going? So this is class 4. I'm going to quickly put in some ideas here on writing with power and grammar trouble spots. So this whole section here for writing with power was this third part here on editing. And when I talk about the sections, it's the main section here from pages 121 to 173. And there's a lot going on here, but the whole thing is about revision. And I think it's important. You say anyone can really be creative, but you really need to be a good reviser in order to make what you're going to write something that's worth reading. So he suggested you practice on other people's writing, and this is great because this is why I encourage peer editing in class. Some people think peer editing is a waste of time, but if you're peer editing and you have a certain, these are my ideas, not elbows, but if you have a certain, a couple of things that you think that the student should look out for, not grammar, but certain points that you're looking for, peer editing can be useful in that way, and that can help a person edit their own work. And he also talks about sometimes where you don't need to revise stuff at all. I think pages 128 are pretty practical here about thorough revising, especially when he says here about how to actually put something together after you free write. On page 129, he says here, read over what you've written and mark the important bits, and then arrange them and think about who's going to read this. So think about your audience, summarize each part there. And on page 130, he runs in, do more raw writing. And then he says, of course, you want to put your parts in order on the basis of your main idea. So you want to structure it here. These are probably some of the most practical pages, putting this together in terms of the density of what he writes, because there's a lot here. But those pages in particular, I think are useful. Revising with feedback, that's the next step up on page 140. There's a lot going on there. But it's hard to, that's good with peer editing, but sometimes, once again, it's a skill you need to work towards. Page 146, cut and paste revising in the collage. This is just completely moving things around, entire parts. Making it freestyle, not just on your page, but actually cutting them out and kind of organizing them into like a collage essay. He's got a couple of examples here he runs through. It's a long section. The mistakes in grammar, okay, short range goal, getting rid of mistakes, long-term goal, learning about grammar. So yeah, those are a couple things to look at there. So that's that section. Let's take a look at grammar trouble spots. Grammar trouble spots is pretty simple for today, chapter 7 and 8, So chapter 7 here is about the present tense, and chapter 8 is about the past tense. So just about the present tense quickly on grammar trouble spots. This is interesting on page 48 because it describes the difference between a dependent clause and an independent clause. You probably know what they are, but it's a really good idea if you don't know what they are to take a look at those. Sometimes this book doesn't totally give you a good idea about how things are organized, but when things pop up, I'm gonna show them to you. There's a great activity here on page 50, exercise 2 on the Norman Rockwell painting on the triple autobiography. That's interesting. Also, exercise 6 on page 53 is good. And the graph here on the cluster of active verbs is good. So that's pretty much it for 7. And like I said, number 8 is just past tense. And what do you do with this? This is basically, it's describing the past perfect, past progressive, and the simple past. So past perfect is a past before a past. Before, it's kind of faded out here. Oh, there we go. Before I went to college, I had studied Japanese for 3 years. So it's a past before a past. Using the fact that when you went to college, that's the marker in the past. Page 61 has the cluster of active verbs here, and that useful chart there. I think exercise 6 on 61 might be interesting to look at. It's in paragraph forms. So, yeah, that's a nice activity.